Welcome to Mind Blip, where learning is a side effect of saying no way. Nearly every country in the world measures things the same way. And then there's America. America is one of only three remaining countries that still uses the imperial system today. In fact, the US was one of the first countries to consider switching to the metric system. So, why didn't the US switch to metric? In the 1790s, France created the metric system aiming to have a universal and standard way of measurement. Jefferson requested the metrics from France with the hopes of helping the US adapt to this system earlier. But the ship that carried the meter and kilogram standard prototypes encountered a storm. But that wasn't even the worst part. The contents were hijacked by a government authorized British pirate, also known as privateers. The captain was taken into captivity and died before he could finish delivering the prototype. By the time the second delivery arrived in the 1800s, the US has already started building its system around the British Imperial system. Fast forward to 1975, when President Ford signed the Metric Conversion Act to transition to the metric system. This shift was motivated by a desire to trade with countries easier and to avoid errors. The problem? It was entirely voluntary. The act declared that this system was preferred for weight and measures for trade and commerce, but it was not mandatory in other fields. Gradually, some changes did occur. The metric system was introduced in many schools. In addition, a few road signs are written in both miles and kilometers, but to some, that was not enough. As some Canadians and Mexicans crossed the border between the US and Canada, they immediately question everything they've ever learned in school. No, seriously. Despite the efforts, with data law, there were no incentives for a change. The metric system wasn't successful in the US for a variety of reasons. For one, Americans are used to the imperial system, so it doesn't really make sense to change it now. It's like asking someone to learn a new language. You wouldn't expect them to pick it up over lunch. To some, the imperial system wasn't just seen as a way of measuring things, it became a symbol of national pride, which caused the reluctance of change, as people don't want to let it go. Much of the infrastructure in the US was built around the imperial system, making a conversion difficult and costly. Switching to the metric system would require significant investments and redesigns of products. Despite this, the US now uses both the imperial and metric system for different circumstances. Science and medicine use the metric system, while everyday life runs with imperial. An example of this is when I drove 60 miles home only to realize the recipe called for 500 grams of flour, not 5 cups. And no, that is not true. As I was saying, some industries secretly operate metric behind the scenes, even though the public sees imperial. So while your car runs in miles, it could have been manufactured in metric. So for the Americans out there, we're kind of living in a metric world without realizing it. While the US got close to switching to metric multiple times, it has never gotten through. From when the first prototypes got delivered to the US to the 1975 Metric Conversion Act, it has never quite stuck. So now, non Americans are stuck with Googling how many inches goes into a centimeter. Because, let's be honest, who even remembers? But hey, if you're still figuring that out, want to know what stays the same from country to country? Smashing that subscribe button. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. Hope to catch you on the next one.